The lunar eclipse coming up on May the 5th at around 15 degrees of the sign of Scorpio has some elements to do with justice. Yes, goodness, fairness, and justice are involved, as well as the potential of losing one's crown, as the crown is eclipsed as well. How does that look in our skies individually and collectively? This is an update. I've already done a longer video on some other elements of this particular eclipse. You know, I want to talk a bit about the collective and then you individually. This is a South Node eclipse cycle in Scorpio. It's always about letting go. It is the third of such eclipses. It began last May, again in October, and here is the last pass. This eclipse cycle is happening so that we can let go, surrender, release, and attain some sort of ending in our lives, because South Node eclipse cycles tend to be all about that. And full moons are also completion. So you're completing something here. And it also may involve a quest for some fairness or justice, as well as leaving behind some place of attainment where you felt you've worn a crown of success, and it's time to release that as well. We'll be talking about why I say all of this in a short bit. Before I begin, if you're new to my channel and this is your first time catching wave of what I do here, I am a whole sign house astrologer. I'm using the Western tropical zodiac. I'm totally in love with fixed stars and minor asteroids, and you'll get a lot of that kind of content here. I'm oriented toward prediction, not necessarily psychology of the sky. And I'm not very woo. If you want me to talk about ascension and stuff like that and how we're collectively ascending through the astrology, you need to go somewhere else. All right, so let's get talking about the sky. And thank you for being here. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe. Everything I do, my classes that I teach, my website, my readings, I'm booked until the fall. Everything in that description box is all you need to know. All right, about me. So let's get talking about this. I'm feeling a little awkward sharing this with you guys. I'm recording on May the 2nd, 2023. I feel awkward because I'm going to talk about things that people are going to troll me about. I'm probably going to get a lot of unsubs here, but I'm going to go ahead and just be authentic and honest about what I feel and see in the sky. And if you don't like that, that's fine. You can jump ahead, by the way, to your all signs portion and ignore what I'm saying about the collective on this last Scorpio eclipse, South Node eclipse of the three, rounding out that wave of change through the Scorpio and Taurus axes. Well, first of all, let's talk about the sky as a principle. It's just simply fated elements of change that the eclipses bring. And the South Node tends to be at the releasing, letting go, also the deeply spiritual side of reality, whereas the North Node is where we grasp and strive, Rahu, the North Node. Sometimes, though, it's also where we expand and grow, and it's where the attention tends to go. So a lot of attention has been in the Taurus zone of the chart, which of course has been the finance markets, the banks, things to do with land, agriculture, land grabs, war, food shortages, supply chain food shortages. These are stories of the Taurus North Node Rahu transit that has been ongoing for the last since beginning of January last year and completes in the July of 23. But we've been not noticing so much about the South Node Scorpio because Scorpio is about secrets, things that are often covered up. It can be, Scorpionic things can be about poisons, and we're going to talk about poison today, spies, stealth, secrets, cover-ups, whistleblowers, and those sorts of elements. And because the South Node is there and our attention is normally drawn to all the action on the playing stage of the game of God, the game of life, the matrix and simulation, we're all drawn towards the big news stories of the Taurus axis, but get ready for this last eclipse to spill some serious, significant news stories. Those news stories will be involving the themes of retribution, justice, divine justice, legal justice, lawsuits, civil lawsuits. It will involve themes as well as breaking the rules and railing against things. It will have the story of the words poison, things to do with crown, and the word crown can be involved. Now, crown, we know the coronation of King Charles is coming. Yeah, right on an eclipse. Technically, the eclipse shadow doesn't fall anywhere over England, so it's kind of clearing there. It's kind of the astrologers, King Charles thought it was safe. I don't know if it is. King Charles will be coronated probably. People are wondering if it will be canceled. I don't think it will be, but you're coronating on a day in which certain elements are in place, and there's a full moon Scorpio eclipse on the star Altheca. Altheca is the Corona Borealis constellation. It has to do with the crown. You can be very literal. He's going to be coronated. He's going to be crowned. There's an eclipse of the moon during a time of a coronation in a fixed star constellation conjunction about the crown, an eclipsing of the crown. I think that's going to mean in the 6 months that follow, he's going to step away for some reason, and that maybe pass on his crown to his son, William. But I don't think that the coronation is going to halt. But who knows? Who knows what could happen? I'll have to do a separate video on that. Okay, so there's that story. Now, the second story, I'm going to show you the chart for a minute, and then I'm going to tell you the story that nobody wants to hear. Okay, yes, and I will be risking, of course, a lot of unsubs and bad troll action. But I'm going to say what I say, and you can take it with your own inner knowing with a grain of salt, or you can just go for it and say, yeah, like maybe Lori's got a point here. Did I give you my name? Yeah, Lori Lothian. Okay, so there we go. Look, bottom line is this. This is what the eclipse looks like on the day of the eclipse, and there's a star called Zubenalgenudi, whatever, pronounce as you will. It depends on which astrologer you listen to of the ancient world, which stars, which planets it's associated with, Jupiter and Mars, perhaps, Saturn and Mars, perhaps. It doesn't really matter. The star is about, one of the meanings is justice. No, let's talk about this story of justice with this eclipse. I want to credit another astrologer who I was listening to this morning with a tiny little channel, but he's a sweet guy from Italy. And I don't know how long he's had his channel. I'm reading my phone to remind myself, but he got me thinking about this. And his name is Astronomicon, Astro, N-O-M, Nom-icon. Astronomicon. Go check him out, like 300 subscribers. Go give the guy some love. And that's why one of the reasons I'm doing my video today, even though it's my second video of the update video here, talking about the idea of justice. Now, he doesn't bring up what I'm bringing. He just, kind of reminded me of that star that's up there with this moon down here in Scorpio. So I talked about Altheca in my last video, and then I didn't really talk about Zubenalgenudi. Now, Zubenalgenudi is a star that is the south claw or the south scale of the scales of Libra. You're probably going, why would the scales of Libra have anything to do with the moon and Scorpio? Scorpio is a scorpion, right? And why we're talking about justice, the scales of Libra? Well, technically, because we have the precession of the equinoxes, the stars are no longer where they were, and nor are these constellations accurate to the real sky because we're using tropical symbolic zodiac. And technically, we would have to take the moon and move back 23 degrees. Okay, so then we're in the sign of Libra, and you see the scales of justice. Okay, now, energetically, this star, Zubenalgenudi, has a lot to do with the idea of weighing for justice, but it also has a really interesting name. Okay, and it is, I'm going to read some stuff to you, but please bear with me because I'm going to go in a story about the world and justice, civil suits, lawsuits, maybe outrage. Oh, I thought I marked my page for the Zuben star. So sorry, guys. I thought I did. Well, I probably did, but I got 1,000 pages marked. But there's a particular line in all of this iteration of the star that really jumps out at me. And let me just grab that for us. I'm going to just pick it up off the back end of my software instead. Give me 30 seconds to relocate that information. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so basically a few things. It's a malevolent star. It can be about lying, crime, disgrace, and dangers of poison. Poison, yeah, well, think about the stinger of the scorpion. Poison, think about the star. Zubenalgenudi, considered to be connected to poison. And it's also a star known as, or symbolically called, insufficient price. Yeah, the price is too great, or some insufficient price or cost for something. Alrighty, so it can be, a criminal, lying, poverty, star, those kinds of words are in the star, but it also has a character maybe of justice, because according to some, Ptolemy in particular thinks the star is a nature of Jupiter and Mars. So Mars is war. Don't forget the scales of justice. The sword of Mars is in the hand of the archetypal feminine personification of Lady Justice. So, but Jupiter is the wise King Solomon, the one with a fair outcome, generous and benevolent justice being dispensed kind of vibe, but even merciful, fair energy. So, but there is a justice quality, and the sword does apply to the guilty. And there is something coming out of this eclipse that has to do with justice and health. Oh, why health? Why health? Why would Lori say health? Why would we have health justice? What could that possibly mean? Because Hygeia at the malefic 18th degree in degree theory is sitting there. Hygeia, hygiene, doctors, nurses, health matters. Yeah, she's sitting up there, and she is square this eclipse in a T-square to the sun, moon. She's at a critical point in the story that's very intense, and she's connected to that justice star. Now, we also have Mars as the ruler of this. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? Where would we need medical justice? Did you know there's a news story that broke about a week before this is May 2nd, about a week ago, that there's a class action lawsuit in Australia. And the class action lawsuit is simply that there is a suit by the people declaring that there is a reason to, let me actually read it to you, okay, rather than me try to, I'm going to read the class action lawsuit so that I do it justice, right? Because I'm telling you class action lawsuits and lawsuits in general and a quest for truth and justice will be a side effect of this eclipse. The eclipse is what we have to let go of as well. Don't forget the releasing of the crown. That may not just be a coronation. That may have to do with things like what? Joe Biden just like came out today on the 2nd, or was it the 1st, and said, oh, no more travel restrictions for anyone entering the US, no more need to be vaccinated by anyone. The pandemic is over, the crisis is over. The last country in the world to say people could enter without having to obsolete vaccinations. But stories like the crown belong to kings and presidents, and there's a eclipsing of a crown. Joe Biden has these eclipses in his 12th house, activating his moon in the house of sickness. I already said in many videos, I think over the next 6 months, he will step down. I think this may also mean there's some delay, or the coronation is not delayed, but there will be a stepping away by, by the King Charles. Okay, I can't find the details on the class action lawsuit. Of course, when I want to cue something, it's not there. Let me go find it for you. Please bear with me. Australia lawsuit. Australia. Now, this eclipse is going to be visible over Australia. Class action lawsuit. And lawsuit. Okay, I'm going to read the details to you. Lawsuit, not lawsuit. Now, this was announced, I think, the last week of April, and making headlines in the world, but of course, only in some places. A landmark COVID-19 vaccine injury class action lawsuit has been filed against the Australian government and the medicines regulator, and the story was breaking at the end of April. So these kinds of things are connected to the eclipse. Eclipses can be felt up to 2 weeks, even longer before the eclipse, and certainly after 6 months after the eclipse. So we're waiting for a narrative that's going to take several months to unfold. You're probably wondering what all the other stories are in the picture. First of all, let's talk about Mars. Mars is the lord of the eclipse. He's underwater in Cancer. He's not comfortable. He's doing his best to stay afloat in the very sensitive, nurturing, and emotional nature temple of the moon, but he is in a mutual reception or a conversation with that moon in a special way that favors some better things and worse things happening through that Mars. In the aftermath of this eclipse, Mars is in the temple of the moon, and the moon is in the house of Mars. And so they have a hotline to each other. The moon can act more like a warrior, and Mars can act more like a nurturer. And all said and done, they're in a flow called a trine. I kind of feel this is a benevolent version of Mars trying to seek justice, right? Flow to justice and seek justice. And the moon is seeking justice like a justice warrior, a lunar justice warrior, right? Think about that. Women who are grieved, seeking justice is a very apt way of perceiving this. Or the feminine instinct to protect and nurture, being aggrieved and angry at what turns out to be situations that occurred during the 2.5, 3 years of the pandemic, which in hindsight may have been very egregious and damaging to the well-being of the people and the children of this world, certainly young men. And you can also see that Mars is sitting over here, flowing with this lunation, which is wonderful, but he's also at 21 degrees in sextile this little guy here with the horns on his head, and that's Nemesis, the divine justice required, divine retribution, divine justice. That's what Nemesis actually means. The correcting of the scales, the balancing of the scales for justice. Nemesis is working with Mars. There is a justice-oriented star on the moon to find the justice, the scales of justice. And there is poisoning because of Scorpio, because of that star. If we think of poisoning, we can say that there are different kinds of poisons in the world. The ones that you accidentally ingest because you forgot you left your mayonnaise out, food poisoning, for instance. And then there's other poisonings that we can have that are sharp and prickly and stingy, like a stinger scorpion tail, that are like a jabbing action. Code. I know I lost about 500 subscribers instantly. Just bear with with me. And bottom line, I can't pretend that it's not in the sky. You know, I just read the sky one way or the other. Second of all, up here, that's Panacea, the thing that cures everybody. She crossed over Neptune around the 14th, 15th of April. News stories came out at that time. One of the news stories was the CDC saying that they're changing their vaccine regulations. One vaccine does it all. The Panacea, the cure for all. You don't need those 2 vaccines from 2 years ago. You don't need to have your up-to-date shots. All you need is a new bivalent vaccine. You can start from scratch or just take that one no matter what. One size fits all. One vaccine cures all. CDC's new guidance happened when Panacea went over Neptune, the god of illnesses and plagues, as well as confusion, delusion, and illusion. At the same time, this happened around the 15th and 16th of April. All the news stories were busting out with the Arcturus variant. Oh no, the Arcturus variant is here. I mean, these sci-fi names are crazy. Arcturus is a star in the sky that's highly benevolent, protective, and connected to healing, though. And Panacea was with Neptune when this announcement was made. What to make of it? Who knows? Up here, you're seeing a couple other asteroids. Nessus. Nessus has to do with revenge. He went to town to get revenge for something he was wronged by. And over here, that was Hercules, I think, who seduced his wife. And this is Pandora, the ills of the world that are spilled out from Pandora's box, including illness, and then the hope that was left in the box. So revenge and the hope, Panacea, Pandora, all these things in the sky are very important, I think, humbly, because if you look at this Panacea and this revenge god Nessus, Pandora, the ills that were spilled onto the world, and Nessus, seeking of revenge, they're sitting in basically a connection to the scales of justice star called Zubenelgenubi and this lunar eclipse full moon already. So they're flowing to it in some way, and they're flowing back over here as well. All the way to Mars. So Mars is the lunation lord, the lord of the eclipse. We're going to see a lot in the news cycle over the next few years, trust me, over the next 6 months especially, to do with, oops, we were wrong. Oops, we were wrong. More of that's coming out, more of that's coming out, more of that's coming out. But people aren't going to go, oops, you were wrong, and we forgive you. They're going to say, oops, you were wrong, and you knew you were wrong all along. And we're angry, and we want revenge, and we want justice. And you will see, as I said, a lot more class action lawsuits going through the system. I put Mercury in the chart just now to remind you that Mercury is all the news that's fit to print, and he's involved in this lunation. That's why I keep talking about news stories over the 6 months ahead. There's other ways to read this eclipse. There will be turbulence in the stock markets, etc. But I'm looking to do another video on that as we come up to the algol-infused new moon coming up around the middle of, or the 3rd week of May. Okay, so now how do you spin this into anything positive? Because I'm sure you're all now biting your fingernails and feeling anxious by what I've said. And you're going, oh no. Okay. First of all, I'm going to tell you that no one here is a pawn of fate. We all have free will and power to co-create with the divine. We just do. And sometimes we make up stories about our lives that make us victims, and sometimes we make up stories about our lives that make us victors. Neither are true. But you have some power in reality to create outcomes that are controversially different than the mainstream narrative. I don't mean just the choices you may or may have not made circumstantially during the pandemic, but you can also choose to believe that you're exactly in the right place at the right time, and you can spin your reality. So if you maybe could have been accidentally poisoned or poisoned because you didn't know better, don't get all worried about it. Trust your own path. Trust the divine has your back. I'm just going to give you a little pep talk here. Okay. I wrote a poem today. I'm channeling a 3rd book, the end of a 2nd book and starting a 3rd book. And I love that poem. And maybe I'll start reading some of my channeled poems to you guys. Okay. But that poem is really about how we don't understand time, and we don't understand, we make stories that are untrue about our lives. Okay, let's get going. I may seem a little bit weird today, don't I? I can feel this eclipse is squaring my ascendant. So it feels very heavy for me. That's basically the truth. When we talk about stepping down from a crown, I have a crown, I have a crown. I'm wearing a crown of a successful astrology practice. And my 10th house is being eclipsed with this last one, with the coronal eclipse, like the star of the crown, Altheca, in mixed in here. I'll probably mean I'll step away from my crown as an astrologer. I don't know if that means I'll do less YouTube videos or I will see less clients, but I'm moving back into my writing again. And I know that's going to really propel me forward in an inspirational way. Whereas I have been really working as almost a slave-driven alcoholic, well, that too probably, workaholic over the last few years in this practice of astrology. And I honestly think it's coming to a place where, at least in terms of how many clients I see, I will need a break. All right, so let's get to, I don't mind the videos as much. I enjoy making them. So let's get to going. Actually, I quite enjoy making them. Okay, so let's get going and talk about each sign. It's not going to be a long video. What I want to do in this is I want to talk about where you may have held power and been in a crown-like status in your life. And now it's time to realize that this third eclipse that's happening in Scorpio, don't forget, one last May, one in October. This is the third. So it was lunar in May, Scorpio solar eclipse in the end of October. And here we have the third eclipse in May, again, a total lunar eclipse. And the eclipse, or lunar eclipse, and the energy here of it's a partial lunar eclipse. And these eclipses, penumbral, it just looks like the moon is shaded, are finishing 3 stories, 3 parts, 1 story. If your rising sign, sun or moon, is your 15 degrees of the fixed signs of Aquarius, Leo, Scorpio, and Taurus, you are going to get the most juice from this, good or bad. These are the most impacted signs, most impacted with flow, 15 degrees or so, right, on either side of the flows of Cancer rising, a flow of water to water, right, Pisces rising, and then kind of like not even worried about it because you're eating the popcorn and not paying attention are the aversion signs, and those signs are flanking this eclipse. So those are the signs on either side of Scorpio. What are the signs on either side of Scorpio? Libra rising, Sag rising. What are the signs across the way, called 150 degrees away, that flank this eclipse? Those, because it's flanking the Scorpio, right? They're tracking are the Aries and Gemini people, kind of eating the popcorn, not getting the most juice from this, or any kind of juice, just on a sidelines really, compared to other signs. And then there's the sextile signs that are 60 degrees away from the eclipse, and they receive a kind of easy flow as well. And when I say easy, eclipses are about change. If you don't like change, you're not going to think an eclipse is easy, but you're going to be the least rattled, okay? And those least rattled sextile signs are going to be the Virgo people, 60 degrees or 2 houses away, and the Capricorn people, 60 degrees or 2 houses away. So remember, you have a relationship to the eclipse and where it's happening by virtue of your rising sign. You can also delineate that secondarily by moon sign and sun sign, should you like. Okay, so let's go through the signs. And when I do this, I'm going to start with Aries and move forward. And we're going to go quickly through a simple delineation, really simple, so that I can get this out to you, I hope, as quick as possible. Second, third, fourth, probably on the 4th. My Patreon community gets everything ahead of time. And for $5 a month, you get 2 Zoom meetings with me, and you get everything I put out here ad-free ahead of time, sometimes up to a week or a month before the general public receives it. So that's one of the advantages of being a patron on my Patreon community. See my description box below to sign up. You can unsign up anytime if you didn't like it. It's no harm done. It's easy to quit. Okay? Patreon makes that really easy. So the Aries people in the sky, this is a lunar eclipse. And please go see my original video, everybody, because I talk about it in different factors that I'm not bringing up now. But this is more where you're going to lose a crown, let go of some level of power and attainment in your life, and where may you also be wanting to receive some fairness or justice for something that was, not just in your view. Okay, so Aries, sun, moon, and rising, the eclipse is happening in your 8th house. This is where you're losing your crown or letting go of something. This could be a crown of financial energy where you've been, let's say, being highly queen or king-like in things to do with resourced money from spouse, inheritance, savings, investments, or money from taxes, or even credit cards and loans and things like that. This kind of money isn't your earned income, and you may be like ready to step down from the crown of that place. Now, honestly, like I'm an Aries sun and moon, I'd say, well, yeah, I have basically been killing it in my 2nd house, making a lot of money, but the 8th house has been a place where I also spend a lot of time sort of resting on my laurels and being able to live over a decade on some of my money that I made in other parts of my life. And so now I'm stepping away from that. Maybe that's one way to code it. The other thing is the 8th house has to do with secrets and family secrets and things like that. And maybe there's a letting go or stepping away from that, dethroning energy. With Mars, though, coming from the fourth house, we got a lot of family legacy wealth, family secrets, family stories that some areas are having to release, let go, and just walk away from. Time to, again, dethrone. If you're looking for any kind of divine justice, Mars is saying, well, is justice connected to property, home, land, real estate, family of origin, stories, and secrets as well? I mean, it can go so many ways. It's very conceptual. I do realize that. But let's just say that you had a piece of property that you were, basically thought belonged to you, and it got whisked away from you in some kind of inheritance dispute, or money from an inheritance. You may be looking for divine justice. That's a literal story, obviously. Some of it can be very subtle, psychological, and spiritual, because these are liberation moksha houses. They're the watery houses too, so they're in the right element. So very spiritual energies as well for a lot of the Aries people to let go of something, and a deep spiritual level to open up something new. And it's interesting because Hygeia is asking you to clean something up in your friendship circles and your hopes and dreams and wishes for your life as she squares this eclipse. But also it may be very literal that there may have a sick friend in the wake of this eclipse. My girlfriend came down with COVID just a couple of days ago, and this is just in that eclipse pre-shadow window. So a friend who's sick, connected to these stories. But it's really, I'm trying to make it more philosophical for each of us than very literal, the best I can. Panacea, the one that was with Neptune back the last week of April, is going to sit in this eclipse at the early degrees of Aries. I guess I'd say just playfully that you are in charge of the thing that cures everything. You will find your own cure-alls for whatever may ail you. And Mars is basically in this trine to Neptune during this eclipse. And he says something like, I'm supporting the remedy for everything that you're going to devise by yourself, because just before the eclipse, Panacea was with Neptune. All right. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to give you guys a quickie today, and I'm not going to spin. Am I going to spin the wheel here so you can see which sign I'm on, or just let you go for timestamps? I think I'm going to let you check the chapters and check the timestamps, okay? And if you're in my live premiere and you haven't hit my like button yet, please do. Thank you, everybody. Because I'm going to be really quick and moving through this quickly. There's going to be chapters and timestamps to click ahead. I'm just going to keep the same old backdrop here because I'm not going to spend hours on each sign. Okay, so Taurus, Sun, and Moon, where can you dethrone yourself but also seek justice as a result and let go of something? It's eclipse cycle in the 7th house. If you're a Taurus rising especially, you may have to let go of a business partnership, a marriage partner, or some clients. You may have to let go of the way you reach your audience and others to the extent you felt crowned or successful here, or a coronal figure in your life, someone you put on a pedestal, someone you put on a throne will be dethroned perhaps as a result of this eclipse to this part of your sky. Quite possibly as well, you may find legal matters, justice matters coming to completion, because you can have legal contracts and justice things happen in the 7th house. And as these things are coming to completion, you're also receiving, right, some kind of divine retribution or justice for things that may have been out of your control, 7th house, but also that wronged you. So I know a Taurus rising person who's going to probably be going into lawsuit land around some fraudulent stuff that happened to him legally and financially. I do think you're cleaning up your reputation. If you need to, Hygeia up there is how to clean your reputation up. You also could be finding that you are having some healing energies as a result of this eclipse, that you step away from something that wasn't for you in significant other connections, and you move towards some kind of correction measure over the months that follow in your reputation and career path. You might be sort of stepping into a healing there. Mars is in the 2nd house as the planetary lord of the eclipse, and he's sitting in, sorry, did I say second? I meant third house. That mutual reception between Mars and the moon is quite nice. And it means that Mars is talking to the moon in a flowing way, and they're talking in each other's houses with a hot line to each other. So lots of good things are happening for you regarding partnership in the 6 months that follow that are very fair and just with who you live with, maybe, or where you live, especially if it's about the local neighborhood. And I say live because a lot of people, at times, people don't account the 3rd house as a live house where you live, but because of a floating ICMC and traditional house system, a lot of people's 3rd house is their home. So as well, so there's that. Also things to do with siblings and fairness and justice and balance coming into light of this eclipse over the months that follow, and maybe even trips and travels regarding siblings for a lot of Taurus people, aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. But mostly, though, there's a dethroning energy around legal matters and people that you would consider significant others. Gemini, sun, moon, rising, especially sign, rising sign especially. Where are you dethroning? Where may you seek justice? Or where may justice appear in the next 6 months? It will appear, this story will appear in your Scorpio zone, which is the 6th house. This can be about your work environment, your coworkers, pets, tenancies and leases, debt you owe money or legally or like money-wise or just karmically, and there may be some justice here revolving around illness issues. And so, but you're also dethroning here. So where would you, it could literally be so literal, like the boss gets fired or leaves, a dethroning of someone in power in the workspace. But you could dethrone anything else here. You could dethrone your medical provider and decide that you want to follow your own lead. You're healing something on that 9th house of God. It can have to do with third marriages, siblings, third marriages, travel, foreign lands, foreign shores, but it's also a court and justice house. So some of you may be involved in some healing matter and receiving divine retribution and justice. And then we also have a square from Mars, a trine from Mars to the lunation at the full moon eclipse. Mars in the house of the temple of the moon suggests some financial prosperity emerging in the 6 months that follow by this whole eclipse cycle. Well, let's go and brings completion. It does suggest an increase in your financial earnings and flow over the 6 months that follow. If you are a Cancer, sun, moon, or rising sign, you're experiencing this dethroning and retribution, justice seeking energy in your 5th house, Scorpio 5th house. This can be for a lot of Cancers, something to do with a dethroning of a child or a lover or a business project or a creative project or business enterprise. But you're stepping away, letting go and releasing because it's exactly what you need to do. It's time for some fairness and justice here as well. Because the Mars story is flowing to the eclipse from your 1st house, you're the one in charge. You're making the decisions. You've got the sword in your hand. You're the dispenser of wise justice in all things. And you also have support from Hygeia. Hygeia in your 8th house. Hygeia up here is angular to the eclipse, creating a T-square, but she is able to maybe create some kind of healing in taxes, shared monies with a partner, shared resources with a spouse over the 6 months that follow this eclipse. So you could also have some kind of sexual healing as a result of this eclipse to do with your house of romance and Hygeia and the house of sexuality. All right, if you are a Leo, sun, moon, and rising sign, this eclipse is opening up a letting go, dethroning, and justice-seeking quality to reality in your 12th house of foreign lands and travel, income and revenue generated from those foreign countries, things to do with enemies and people who don't have your back that are hidden from your view, and your own self-undoing addictions and bad habits. Don't forget, we have a poison element to this eclipse. For you guys, it could definitely be getting rid of a poison, something you ingest in your home. Lunation is in the house of your home. Oh, did I say that? Sorry, repeating, but I'm not doing this over. I apologize. Sorry, Mars, the lunation lord, is in your 12th house, but the lunation is in your 4th. So things you poison yourself with at home, your own self-undoing through bad habits and things like that, or things to do with revenue and foreign lands are connected to this eclipse. But in a flowing way, you're able to achieve balance, right? The scales of justice. And because this eclipse is on the south scale, you're able to rectify the situation. If there's anything going on to do with your family of origin, like people you live with, your mom and dad, your childhood stories, this full moon is helping you let go of something that could have been toxic or poisonous in your life in that regard. Be careful, of course, not to inhale poisonous fumes in your home or something weird like that, because there isn't an eclipse connected to star poisoning in your house. So be careful of that for sure over the months that follow this eclipse. Take extra caution around toxic substances in your home, Leos, sun, moon, and rising. But also, the moon here is the mom in the house of the mother, and there's an eclipse. So honestly, I'm not going to pretend otherwise. You could have eclipse of mother. Mother has health issues or something going on with your mother, especially if you're a 15-degree-ish rising sign Leo. Hygeia squaring the moon in the house of the mother. For some of you, your mother may have a health challenge in the 6 months that follow, but you may also heal a relationship, try to heal a significant other relationship, but recognize some of the challenges are coming from your childhood, or the family of origin, or the way your mother reacted to you as a child, or even from how your mother reacts to someone you're in a relationship with. See, look for those themes to play out over the 6 months that follow this eclipse. Alrighty. If you're a Virgo rising, sun and moon, my daughter's a Virgo rising. I always talk about her as an example. The eclipse is going to happen in Scorpio, and Scorpio is your third house of trips, travels, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, and local neighborhood. If your IC is there, it's where you live. Well, this can be very much about a time to release, surrender, and let go of some platform of coronal success you've had in the local neighborhood. Shops, restaurants, tiendas, and stores, movie theaters. Did you have a high-level job up there? My daughter is like working in a gym, got a great salary. Maybe she'll step down, find a new job. Third house could be sibling energies, time to find justice and balance with a sibling, or time to let go of or release a sibling relationship, but in a flowing, harmonious way, because you are getting this as a sextile as a Virgo rising. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of the easier eclipses for you. It's less harsh than other people have. As well, you could say that with Mars as the lunation lord of the eclipse flowing from your third house, good things are trying to happen that are going to impact you positively from the house of great gains from your career. So maybe, in fact, you may coronal up and become more powerful because you move up in a level in your career path. Some of you may also have some benefits coming off of this eclipse with friends who are standing up for you, warrior lunar energy, friends who want to go to bat for you in the 6 months that follow this eclipse. You can also experience some success through an elder sibling. Now, because this eclipse connects to Hygeia in a square and is pretty precise, and she's hygiene and health in a health house, this eclipse will push a lot of Scorpio people to up level and improve your health. Now, you probably will do things that you need to do to bring that health on, you'll take action, because Mars is the lord of action and he's connected to this eclipse. Some of that may be things you choose to do that bring you more fun with friends, getting in shape because you go jogging with the friends, but you guys are looking at proactive health challenges, health changes, health improvements from this eclipse. In the short term, within a couple of weeks of the eclipse, if you do have any challenges with your health, you'll see the way out. I don't think this is here to derail you, but to improve your health. The sun is the lord of the 12th house of self-undoing, and of course is involved in the eclipse. So if you have any self-undoing habits and patterns, alcohol, vaping, smoking, guaranteed a lot of Virgo risings are letting go of something they do to make their health, undo their own health over the 6 months that follow this eclipse. Libra, sun, moon, and rising sign in your sky, what you got going here, what's going on, right? Oh, if you're in the live premiere, please hit my like button. This is the key to algorithmic success. I really appreciate if you just push that button. Thank you. Libra, sun, moon, and rising. So for you guys, this is a Scorpio eclipse, happening in the part of the sky that is your second house of earnings. It can definitely be where you're going to step away from a coronal position of power, dethrone yourself, maybe step away from some level of success financially, ending some cycle of success. But you also may be looking for fairness and justice in financial matters while the 6 months of the eclipse unfold before your very, very eyes. You also have Mars in a flow to this eclipse from the career house. Yes, definitely looks like a change of job, change of career, change of status in your career direction right now. And this will be a part of this eclipse's story, especially for you Libras around 15 degrees, sun, moon, and rising, but all of you will feel this for sure. You've been trying to let go of a way of working and a style of working anyway for the last year, all through 2022. Maybe you've been doing it in fits and starts, but you're looking for a new direction in your career, not just a new job. And this last eclipse can bring it home. You may be looking for more balance in your work life, home life as well. And that eclipse can support that. Hygeia is in your 5th house, and she's all about romance and love, but she's sexual healing you. Do you need sexual romantic healing or healing with a child relationship? Maybe. So if you do, it'll show up as a result of the eclipse. Technically, this eclipse with Hygeia here could be inviting something in to do with a new relationship for a single Libra. But if that's so, you'll be dating somebody who feels very friendly to you, very much like a friend, because I'm looking at the opposite house of friendship. So you'd be finding new opportunities through friends or friendship circles, or someone who just feels like a friend, you know? But you could be definitely healing a child relationship with one of your children as well. And there may be a need for balance and fairness, and also positive momentum that Mars is trying to bring on to deal up a change of relationship quality with an existing child. But that also applies to lovers and romantic partners as well. Alrighty, if you're Scorpio rising, of course, it's happening in the house of you, and it's a big deal. So, Scorpio rising people, you're dethroning yourself and finding fairness and balance as you measure up whether the price was worth it in some area of your life. Where was it too costly? Where was the price too high? And you're also looking at where you may have achieved some level of power, recognition, a coronal energy. But don't forget, the eclipse on the star of the crown energy is to dethrone something, in my humble opinion. So where are you dethroning yourself? No one else is doing it to you. There's a self-dethroning here. You may step down or step away from something. Mars in the ninth house can be about some position you've held in academia, to do with foreign travel, to do with administrative or behind the scenes power, the hand of the king. Or you may also have some justice being delivered, ninth house stuff, or father figures playing a significant role in helping you dethrone, step down, and step away. Mercury is involved in the eclipse across the way, conjunct the sun. He rules your house of inheritances and chunks of money. And quite possibly, maybe there is some kind of chunk of money that allows you to work less hard or to strive less forcefully in some area. You know, you also have a lot of axis energy around the marriage house. And so a lot of you are trying to find new ground there in significant love relationships in your life. Mars is also flowing towards that part of your sky. So balance in your love life, balance between your time alone and your time with the one you're with, taking some actions in the ninth house that could support foreign shores, foreign travel, legal marriages even, ninth house is churches, to continually rebalance some kind of scales of relating to the other. But you're in charge of the balancing act. Hygeia is the fourth house of home and where you live. And also your childhood, healing your childhood stories, healing your childhood wounds, or healing your childhood system, you know, family system stuff, and ancestral line stuff even. But at the same time, it could be very literal, like you're healing something in your home, or you're healing in your home, or you find a healing new home. Who knows? The 6 months that follow can bring that forward, and you may see that. But in the short term of the eclipse, you may feel a lot of tension regarding something to do with health and healing and home, you know, in a square to the eclipse in the house of you, right? And the sun in the house of your significant others. Okay, I'm just going to keep going, but I will say that if there's anything you need to square away with your love partner, this eclipse can definitely bring it up, especially it involves some sense of the ills that may have befallen you in the romantic element of the life of you and your partner. Any turbulence there, this could be very oriented towards healing misunderstanding or sexual misunderstandings or sexual challenges in an existing relationship. Oh, or pregnancy. Ooh, or pregnancy issues as well. Or discussions around having children, or sexual energies, children, fertility. Could be a part of the eclipse revolving around you and someone you dated or someone you're with. All right, so Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. The eclipse is happening for you. It is in Scorpio. This is your 12th house. It's very subtle. You've got your popcorn bag. You might have to dig for this one, go fishing or divining for the meaning. Pay attention to your dreams. It could be very good eclipse for getting a scale of balance and justice regarding the ways you might fall away from yourself, that you may undo yourself because you just, have an addiction or a self-defeating belief or some self-sabotaging, saboteur archetype operating in the behind the scenes operating system of your unconscious mind. You could get very spiritual with this eclipse and open a doorway to enlightenment. That's one of the benefits of a South Node eclipse in the 12th house. This eclipse is also connected to where you might want to dethrone, and this has to do with foreign shores, foreign lands from your birthplace, or revenue you accrue from foreign lands. If you're going to dethrone from that or step down, this may be moving from a foreign land to somewhere else. Or maybe by moving to a foreign land, you step off a throne. Or travel to a foreign land. You have Mars as the Lord of the Lunation in the 8th house of the chunky money you share with your spouse, your business partners, taxes, tax rebates, and things to do with inheritances and 401k and retirement monies even. So, Mars is trying to support you in the house of the moon, and the moon is having something going on in the 12th house. So it could be mortgages for properties and land. It could be things to do with how you want to support yourself over the next 6 months financially by teaming up with other people's money and leveraging money in a way that isn't about earning money, basically. And lastly, Hygeia is trying to heal something, squares the eclipse in a T-square to the sun and moon. Well, she's trying to heal something in your 3rd house of siblings. If you have a rift with a sibling, this is definitely a next 6 months to heal it. If it's not a sibling, it could be an extended family member, like an aunt, uncle, cousin, niece, or nephew. Or one of those family members has a health challenge, and that's allowing some reconnection and maybe tension, but ultimately a desire to restore, heal, and bring wholeness to some of those relationships in your life. And if you want to learn something, this eclipse could give you a gritty tension that asks you to step up and learn a skill in the healing arts of some sort in the months that follow this eclipse. All right, Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising sign. If you're a Cappy, this is an eclipse that's happening in a flow to you. It's coming from a sextile in your 11th house of good spirit. You, of all people, are not too concerned with this eclipse. Now, fairness, justice, divine retribution, balancing, and dethroning in the house of an elder sibling, or possibly a friendship. So a friend may step down from an esteemed place in your life. You may want to balance a friendship or sibling relationship, or it will come to balance. Obviously, with a square to Hygeia to the house of the elder sibling or one of your friends or allies, this could mean there's a health challenge emerging in their lives. But Hygeia during the square to the eclipse is in your house of earnings. You're trying to do hygiene in the house of money. Well, hygiene in the house of money can look like fiscal hygiene in quotes, but it can also look like things to do with healing some of the self-worth, self-esteem, self-value stories you may hold around your worthiness to be financially successful or something like that. Technically, you may also heal something to do with food style and things that you eat, because this is a health goddess in a house of what you put in your mouth. And this eclipse could be pressuring you in the 6 months that follow it to eat less whatever ails you. If you're a Capricorn who can't get enough cookies, then it could be time to stop your cookies. And if you're a Capricorn who eats, who drinks too much beer, it could be time to pull back on the beer, or smokes too much cigarettes or something like that. Not to pick on you Capricorns. Alrighty. So then also you have this thing going on with Mars. He's supporting this whole thing, right? He's in a good flow from Cancer. He's in a good spot in the sky. And what he's doing is he's operating to give back up to that lunar element from your 7th house of your significant marriage partner or soulmate or love partner who's backing up this whole story and giving a good cheerleading session. Now, there's a lot of support from the moon in the 7th house for legal contracts or business partnerships as well. And the moon here says over the 6 months, the best I can, I may try to give you some fiscal hygiene by supporting an opening through friends and allies, great gains from your career activations through legal partnerships, business partnerships, significant client relationships, and your significant other. So it can be a good money upgrade over the 6 months that follow as well. So look forward to that Capricorn sun, moon, and rising. My Capricorn rising ex-husband's girlfriend is starting to kill it in her jewelry business, for example. Oh, sorry, girlfriend, wife. And that could be, that story of the fiscal hygiene picking up as the partner is elevating in their own money stories as well. Moving on to the next piece of sky, it is Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising sign. If you're an Aquarius like I am, we have Hygeia moving the house of our body. It's asking us to take care of our health and be hygienic. Take that daily shower. Make sure you brush your hair and your teeth, as well as, of course, just be more attentive to making yourself physically healthy. And that's something that we have baked into this eclipse. And I brought Hygeia up first because it's in the house of us. Now it's squaring the lunar eclipse. And that lunar eclipse is in the career house. I had a client email me today and say, am I okay? Worried that I was actually burning out maybe because of how many videos I put out and how many clients I see. Well, that's a sweet, sweet message from a client. Well, maybe I have to be careful. And so do you, all Aquarians, that we're dethroning from the 10th house. We're trying to find equilibrium, balance, and the scales of justice with star Algenubi up there, Altheca, the crown. Sort of, it could be a dethroning that's underway in the 6 months from an area of attainment, invisible career and reputation, to bring justice and balance and retribution if needed, but just balance, scales of justice to that part of our life so that we can attain greater well-being, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. Hygeia can rule them all. And as this is occurring over the next 6 months, we are reminded that we have support from Mars. Mars bakes into this eclipse a reception with that moon in the 10th, and it actually looks really good for a positive up level in the work we do in the world as it pertains to the way we do it. But Mars is also in his joy in the 6th house and gives us an upgrade and an up level in our health. So if we need any kind of surgical procedure, especially elective, like if my doctor tells me my knee can't be fixed unless I have some kind of needle poking in it, fine, then Mars in the next 6 months does that kind of thing, right? Sharp objects, lasers, or dermabrasion needles, but for health benefits here, not cosmetic usually, although he is flowing to the house of the face, so go ahead and get a nose job if you want. Aquarius rising in the next 6 months. But it does speak to more bringing balanced yet forward momentum in the work and health life for you in the 6 months that follow this eclipse as you dethrone, step away, and release something. 15-degree Aquarius rising people, give or take a few degrees, will feel it the strongest. The last time I had eclipses in this part of my chart, I let go of a 8-year career as a psychic clairvoyant medium and stepped away from it completely. And I did nothing like it for the next few years. So who knows, guys, what I'll be doing as a result of this eclipse. So hopefully I'm not just not doing astrology at all. But as I said earlier, I'll probably see less clients. If you're Aquarius rising, reflect on those themes in your life, okay? Because basically, you have the asteroids that I mentioned earlier in the beginning. Well, you have Pandora. There's hope in the house of money and earnings after all the ales have been spilled that was connected to this eclipse. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please watch the beginning of this video. All right. And then first and always first, the best and always best, the most fishy and the best fishies of all are the Pisces rising. So you guys, we need you. We need the mystics of the zodiac to be on board for humanity. So do respect. So here we go. Number one, this is an eclipse that flows to you. And as I said earlier, the Cancer and the Pisces people are flowing. This eclipse is water flows to you. So it's obviously trine. So it's very positive in that sense. No matter how I parse it, it's mostly good. The eclipse is with where are you dethroning yourself and where are you finding equilibrium and balance and justice. Now, justice in the 9th house is what we're talking about. The 9th house is the house of courts, legal agreements, visas, passports, and shit like that. Technically speaking, this could be just very literal. You need to get a legal visa. You need to upgrade your passport. You need to find what the courts of the land say about where you're living or something like that. And my sister she's a Pisces, and she lives in America. She has a green card, but maybe she'll have to do some kind of upgrade of her status, some kind of change. I don't know, something like that in the 6 months that follow the eclipse. To dethrone the 9th house is interesting. You may dethrone a belief. You see, the 9th house is what you believe about life. It's your faith. It's your spiritual and religious beliefs. And there's a crown that's falling off or coming off or being obliterated by the eclipse. So you may dethrone a belief. I believe in God the Father, creator of heaven and earth. I believe in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord. What I recited to you is a liturgy thing that they use in the Catholic Church. That's like what you call rote belief. I'm not judging it, by the way. I have a prayer that I use that comes from the Catholic Church. It gives me a parking spot every single time. But if you have any fixed beliefs here, because this is fixed sign, and there's a dethroning in the house of God, you're losing a belief. You know that song, "Losing My Religion," that kind of thing. You may also lose touch with a father figure. I mean, dethroned from your life, no longer putting them on a pedestal or something like that. As well, Mars is supporting this eclipse from the 5th house of sexuality, romance, children, fun, play, pleasure, leisure, travel. Those factors are flowing toward this eclipse to help support things to do with 9th house themes that I mentioned and 5th house themes that I just mentioned. Mars is in the temple of the moon, and he's working it as best he can. He's not good there, right? He doesn't like lunar emotional states of being. He's trying not to show his feelings often as a soldier that he is, but he is in a very interesting place during this eclipse. So it could be a really deeper emotional connection in the 6 months that follow with one of your children, with a romantic partner or lover, and it sort of bakes that in, right? And more intensity around emotion, but in a positive way. Finally, the essence here of having to create hygiene, right? Where you need to be more healthy, mind, body, spirit. It's a house of God, a house of spiritual attainment, spiritual liberation, but also the house of your past lives and the house of your self undoing. Again, we fall away from ourselves in the 12th house by celestial motion. So it's a weak house. It's considered malefic because of its weakness. And so where are you able to rectify or heal in the 6 months that follow some area of sabotage of self? Now, there is an element to the 12th house can be oddly positive. It's where we accrue revenue from foreign travel, foreign lands, and foreign shores. Some of you may be doing something regarding that theme, especially if the word healer or healing is involved. I don't know. It's a tricky one with that 9th house involved as well, because 9 and 12 are spiritual houses, basically. So a lot of this might be very subtle to you and very spiritual healing. Let's call it spiritual healing. Can be an offshoot of the eclipse over the 6 months ahead. But because it's a square, it may be not an easy process. You may feel it's a challenging, but hopefully fruitful direction. Alrighty, thanks for listening, Pisces, Sun, Moon, and Rising. And if you haven't hit the like button in the premiere, please do. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, why not? If you haven't checked my description box yet, please check it out. Everything I do is in there. You're not going to get this reading. You don't get this before I start my Sky Reader class, but I may delay enrollment for anyone who gets in late. Check the description box below. It starts on May the 6th. And even if you hear this later, if you wanted to jump in a week late, I probably would let that work for you. A 7-week live class with me. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope you're having a great day. It's beautiful and sunny at 1:30 in the afternoon in Vancouver, Canada. And I'm going to go for a walk with my soulmate on the beach and enjoy this beautiful weather here. I'll see you in the next video, which will be the Venus video coming out shortly after this one. Venus moving into Cancer. I can't wait to talk about that with you. That one will be out maybe 2 days after you're catching the wave of this one. Everyone take care and be well in this eclipse. And by the way, don't watch it if you can see it. And wear white, stay calm, eat light, be neutral, be sattvic during the eclipses. Do not get all riled up. You'll bake in negativity for 6 months, according to the ancients. No fights on the day of the eclipse. Bye-bye, everyone.